So all that stuff you were telling us a minute ago, like, don't say any more of that.
Got it.
Oh, I missed out on it. Damn it.
Yeah, Cliff was giving us the rundown, like every CEO in the business, and who's a jerk, who's a good dude.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Damn. I might have to replay that one whenever we shut down when I hear about this.
You guys know I take those secrets to the grave.
Yeah.
I know. It's the best way to be, man.
Yep.
I don't know. I always prided myself in keeping my mouth shut when someone told me. Yeah, even my wife will give me crap sometimes because she'll be like, "Oh, you never told me about that." And I was like,
Yes. Yeah, we've had those
sworn to
conversations.
secrecy, you know? I know you're my wife, but a secret's a secret. Stick to the word. How's it out where you're at? You say you were in Denver last week?
No, this week. I just got back last night.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was beautiful in Denver. Clear,
Oh,
50s.
It's gorgeous out there.
So it was gorgeous.
I've got a friend that's a real estate agent in Colorado. Yeah, he's probably been doing it for about, I don't know, I guess probably close to 10 to 15 years. At least 10 years. I know he's doing quite well right now.
Well,
That
you
area
got
has
the real estate
exploded.
inventory. What real estate agent isn't doing well right now?
Yeah.
Right, true. But that place has exploded. It's beautiful. There's a lot of
Yeah.
really beautiful areas. The Centennial area, Cherry Creek.
Has the real estate market slowed down at all where you're at, Cliff?
I haven't really paid a lot of attention to it, but there's not a lot of inventory. So I think it's still pretty active.
We just recently noticed that some of the houses that normally they're disappearing in like a week or two. It's now
Right.
they're on the market for 40 days or longer.
Well, Zillow took a huge hit. They were buying houses thinking they were going to flip them, and it didn't work
Oh,
out.
right.
They ended up dumping some of those houses for real cheap. In fact, someone bought. I was talking to someone who did that and bought back his house for a lot less money than what Zillow paid for it.
Here-
I didn't
Well,
realize.
sorry to cut you off there, Cliff. But
That's fine.
So you said it was
Wouldn't be the
Zillow
first time.
was acquiring?
What's that?
You say Zillow was acquiring?
Yeah, Zillow had created a business unit to buy houses, and they bought a ton and ended up losing a lot of money. They just shut it down a couple of weeks ago.
Wow. I wasn't aware of that. I know about a year and a half ago, I was reading quite a few articles where was it BlackRock Investment was acquiring just a shit ton of houses,
Yes,
especially
it's
in
a
the
lot of
burbs and different.
private equity companies that have done that and are renting them out. So it's become a big
Yeah.
business.
Wow.
is it a bit of the same thing that has fueled the multiples that companies are getting for their businesses these days? And not necessarily in the car business, but maybe outside a bit as well. There's so much hedge fund money and things like that.
Yeah, that's certainly part of that. I mean, that's what we're seeing in the dealership buy sell market. There's so much cash right now, certainly at the public group level. And I'll give you guys an eye popping number here. From 2011 to 2020, that 10-year stretch, the public dealer groups acquired 332 rooftops. Just this year alone, they've acquired 230 to this point.
Whoa.
So that's only 100 difference,
Huh.
rooftop difference. So the reason being the public dealer groups, and obviously most dealer groups are flush with cash, but certainly the public dealer groups have to deploy that cash. And there's only so many times you can buy stock back or issue dividends. And automation has employed that strategy quite a bit, but but they have to put that cash to work and grow. And really the only way you can do that is through acquisitions. So even though they're paying top dollar right now, it's they really don't have much choice. So it's created that frothiness that we talk about in the market. But we could very well end up with over 600 rooftops changing hands this year. Previous record was I think 479 in 2015 when Berkshire acquired the 80 stores from Van Tile. Otherwise, we're generally in that number of 330 to 360 rooftops each year for the last almost 10 years. So this year is certainly an anomaly, and it'll probably continue. We know of a lot of deals that have been pushed in their first quarter just because of the backlog at the OEM approval stage. So, we'll see if any more big deals get done. There's some intriguing plays out there with some large privately held groups.
Anything you can share?
No, not at this moment.
So I my CFO sent it to me yesterday. It was interesting. Right. There was I think it was on Crunchbase, and for SaaS-based companies, like most, I think, technology vendors in the automotive space consider themselves that.
Yes.
And but in 2019, do you know what the multiplier was on revenue for acquisitions?
Not off the top of my head.
So they said
right.
7 times. I could have answered
that in 2019, but yeah.
Yeah, so they said 7 times was the
yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes
yeah. And for anyone listening, it's a real simple way to think of this. It's like whatever the revenue is, the forward-looking revenue for the year,
right.
Multiply that by 7, and that's the purchase price of the company.
Right.
So guess what it is now, according to this article?
I guessed wrong yesterday.
Yeah, okay. Well, I've seen some that have gone that are in the high teens. If you look at it, some recent deals here in automotive, it's
like Prodigy. Jeez.
Well, Prodigy. Certainly Darwin received a very high multiple too. So I don't know what the average is. It's probably in the teens, 13, 14, maybe higher. It's higher.
Way higher.
18, 19.
34.
34.
Which we haven't seen in the car business, but
yeah.
But they're just talking about in general.
Right. Yes, across the board. Right.
And I knew like fintech was going for crazy money, like multiples, like 20 times, and
right.
Yeah, we were talking.
Well, I should take that back.
Insane.
Yeah, certainly with the valuation that Tekion received off of $250 million investment, and they've raised about $450 million total, and they just got that $3.5 billion valuation. So, and we see with the EV companies, I think now there's 18 publicly traded EV automakers, and only one that has sold a car yet. Tesla. So, and I think just for the top 3, I mean, that are Tesla, Rivian, and Lucid, I think their valuation is totaling 1.6. I mean, it's up trillion up there. So
we've been 7 minutes into this show already, and a lot of what we've already talked about doesn't really pass the say it out loud test for me, especially in the valuations of the electric vehicle companies, the multipliers on revenue for these things. Something's going on, right?
Well, the economy is humming right now. I mean, even with Joe Biden, I mean, the economy is doing as well as it's even better than it was under Trump. You look at the stock market; no one expected that. I don't think. I mean, this time last year we were talking about the possibility of a Biden. What happens when he assumed, entered the White House, and it's not what any of us expected from an economic perspective. So there's still a lot of cash out there.
I've been saying for a while, it's all those small business owners and even your large business owners. I mean, there's a website you can get on, and so I guess it's it's common knowledge, or you're able to access what each one of those companies received for their PPE.
Yes,
Or
for the
PPP?
PPP. Yes. Oh yeah. You can just there is a database of that information.
And I tell you, knowing what I've known, what I've seen, dealer owners really made out.
Yes. Some
Really
of the public
made out.
guys gave their money back, but
Oh, really?
privately held dealers made out very well.
Yeah.
And part of it too was and let me just, I'm not going to throw a plug in for NADA, but I will tell you that NADA worked really hard to make sure that the dealers were able to take full advantage just in the way the businesses were constructed and licensed, and they worked really hard with the appropriate regulatory agencies to make sure that dealerships could take full advantage of that. And that was all under the radar work, and a lot of scrambling too at the end with the Treasury Department and Congress. So, one of the things NADA did that went unreported.
Good.
Well, they definitely
they get
did
a lot of
job.
grief sometimes for what they don't do, but there's a lot of work under the radar that they do that they never,
I'm glad to hear
really
that.
gets to the light of day.
Glad to hear that. That's because you rarely hear good things about NADA.
No,
days, so.
that's true.
Yeah. Well,
Cliff, you just had a conference, Automate, right?
Autovate, yes.
As
Last
an Innovate.
week. As an Innovate and Auto, yes.
Okay.
That name came to me about 3:00 in the morning several years ago, after about a month of trying different names and not liking anything. And I woke up with a start one morning, and there it was. And I ran to my office and sat down and started playing around. I'm like, yeah, this is a winner. So,
Give us the lowdown. How'd it go?
Well, it was our fourth one, and we hold it in Austin each year, and focuses on automotive technology, retail technology, and investment. And so, we bring in 140, 150 people. We led off this year with Jay Vajarin, the founder and CEO of Techion. That was a great way to start off that event. And then I'll tell you, it was a great mix. A real home run was Marianne Johnson, who's the chief product officer at Cox Automotive. And she provided a very clear and frank picture as to, what the future looks like from a product roadmap perspective.
Just for Cox, really, or?
Well, for Cox, primarily, for Cox. And it was, she didn't give up anything secret, but it was clear, where she wants to take the company. And her presence was very commanding. We had several, some of the old timers, Chip Perry and Dale Pollock were great additions to the stage, just because, they're guys that know where the bodies are buried in the last 20, 25 years in our space.
Sure.
And those are always great conversations. We had so many, I think, phenomenal entrepreneurs, and we really try to focus on providing content that really, I think, is helpful to the investor and entrepreneurs in the audience. So it's really it's slated towards CEOs and founders to come in, not have to sell, not be sold to. It's there are very few presentations. It's all Q&A mainly with me on stage, and finding out, where the capital is, how people are raising the capital, a lot of great conversations, but it's an informal, high level, kind of different event. This where they can come in, sit down, and think about the next year or the year after, and where they need to take their companies. Or, a lot of people looking to raise money. There's been 6 transactions in our space over the last couple of years where the conversation started at Autovate. So,
do you mind sharing which
we're bringing people in? Am I sharing?
Which ones those were?
Careful. What's that?
Can you share which ones they were, or one or two?
Well, yeah, there's a couple. Yeah, certainly a CDK Roadster deal, I think Car Story with Vroom was another one, and there were certainly, I think, trade pending with Cap Street, the Cap Street Group. And those were where I think the conversations really kind of got started. Was at that event. There's a few others I can't talk about, but
Well, that was one of your goals whenever you
yes,
started
yes,
that conference. Yeah,
yes,
I
yeah.
recall
I always
whenever
felt that
you
the
were first
investment
talking about it.
community. I always felt that even when I was at Wards, that the investment investor community and the role that capital plays in automotive retail was just really misunderstood and not given much attention. And and so I really thought there was a niche play there too, both from content with the news, the website with the Banks Report and this conference to focus and bring attention and even educate dealers. There's a lot of opportunity for investment in these companies, on the part of dealers, the way to diversify some of their income and get in on the ground floor. Uh, and then also, I think to educate dealers too on how capital, the role capital plays in a company's strategic direction and growth, and what it means at different stages of a company's evolution. So, I mean, and Alex, you've lived through that, uh, and are living through it
Living
now. I
it.
mean, yeah, you're living it now. So, uh, and I just think there's the automotive retail space is such a vibrant microcosm of capitalism and what capitalism really is and can be in our country. And so it's fascinating hearing the stories of people that have started companies. We all know Bryce Engler, and just being able to talk to him, and I just remember walking past him, past his booth at an event in 2014, and he's got that little hey Cliff, he's got that little mannerism, and he was sharing with me then what he was trying to do, and I was a jaded journalist, I've seen it all. I'm like, okay, Bryce, you're taking on some big boys there, good luck. Well, he did it the right way, and is in a really good position today. So those are just great stories, and like you said, Alex, you guys are living it right now with Freaking Tech and just building that company out. I mean, that's to me, there's a vibrancy, there's an energy in our space, and so much of it comes from small startups, that guys that have come out of the dealership community that have a great idea and start building it, and find the right funding and the right partners, and it's off to the races.
That's key. Like, and
Yes,
it's not easy
You
to
make it
do
sound.
if you
I
don't
was say you make
have
it
the
sound so
connections.
easy.
Yeah.
right, right. And so we try to help match investors, bring investors in, and look, I don't do the Shark Tank thing, but I'll tell you what. I mean, you're up on stage at Autovate. It is a little bit of a Shark Tank.
Yeah.
It's not that environment. It's more relaxed, but you never know what kind of questions I'm going to ask either. I mean, I don't have a scripted list of questions. We just get into. I just tell them, look, be ready to talk about your company, be ready to talk about the industry and your perspective, and we'll just go from there. And it turns out to be very open conversations.
Was there anything particular that really stuck out on the technology front?
Yeah, I'm still trying to. I got to go back, go back through my notes. I mean, there are some new companies that are. When I say new, I mean that are coming into the space. I mean, Numa, and that's NUMA. They've got a chat
Mm-hmm.
bot, but they're backed by Google and Google Ventures and DFJ Partners, which are obviously heavy hitters. And they weren't in the automotive space and have just entered it in the last year. Fascinating technology. There's another one, I think Sky with Mark Queen, who's doing a facial
Yeah, I took notice of that.
AI recognition, which is going to be fascinating as they're building it with Georgia Tech's Technology Institute. So
Huh.
I think we're going to be hearing a lot more from them. I think, and then certainly the current players that are in the space looking to grow and make acquisitions.
Mhm.
We'll probably see more on the digital retailing side over time. Some more deals. I think we
Yay.
certainly had that spat. Well, there's an evolution. We had that spat of deals done this year, and then I think there's going to be a little bit of a downturn or maybe downtime, and then we'll see another round maybe in a year or two. But
Okay.
I pay attention to JD Power. That's a big, you know, they've made a lot of acquisitions. I would imagine there's another one or two that they could make here in the near future. And certainly, you think, I mean, Thoma Bravo's the capital investor behind that group, and at some point, I would envision an IPO or spin out.
What about Shift?
Uh, the used car play or Shift Digital?
Shift Digital.
Yeah, what about Shift Digital?
Do you see something in their future?
There's always been there's been rumors, chatter with them. They do have a private equity partner behind them. That's going back a few years now, but they're still the top dog in that space, and I envision them being there still. Look, I think they have a couple, maybe 2 or 3 big contracts coming up this year, or when I say this year, in 2022. So we'll see how all that plays out. But listen, you don't ever bet against Steve St. Andre ever, and his team. I mean, he's got a really good team there. Look, there's a lot of frustration in the market about that company, but
Mm-hmm.
they're there, and you got to figure out how to play ball.
So you're saying with digital retailing, maybe it goes in waves, and you project, maybe we'll see it sort of die down. I feel like that's where we are right now. You don't hear, it's not quite as much buzz around it. Of course, it was everything and all things a year and a half,
Yes.
2 years
Right,
ago.
right.
So you think maybe it'll sort of die down? We're sort of in that die down phase, and then
Well,
you'll see it
I
maybe
think you just look at the buyers.
reemergence.
I mean, all right. So Reynolds, CDK, and JD Power have pretty much acquired, and those are the 3 big strategic buyers. Cox has launched theirs. They've built it internally. And still trying to figure out the relationship between those different entities that they have. And Marianne explained it very well at Autovate, but when you're up on stage asking the questions, sometimes you're thinking about not always the full answer there. But you look at who the other strategic buyers would be right now, and I don't know that they're out there. So Car Now opted not to sell. They took investment from their current investor, Battery Ventures. They raised, I think it was another $30 million that they took in. So
Did they have an offer on the table?
I don't know if they. Well, no, I don't know if there was an offer on the table. There was a lot of interest from different players. And there's a lot of different different ideas. And, you hear rumors about people who are talking, but those guys are really focused at building for the long haul, and so kudos to them.
I'm sure they see a big opportunity.
I would
right
envision them being one of the more attractive targets out there in the next couple of years. Still, I mean, even more attractive than what they were or would have been. Look, you got to watch. Look, there's all sorts of plays out there. You got to watch AutoFi carefully, closely. I think Market Scan is another one that there's a lot of intriguing plays where maybe not a large strategic, but someone could come in and roll up a few companies. We've seen that play before.
Oh yeah,
not always successful. I mean, JD Power's employing it. Cox made that play years ago. So, we'll
what
see.
about on the DMS front?
Well, actually, before we go there, to DMS, Jeff. You mentioned Market Scan. OfferLogix is coming up a bit too.
Well, the OfferLogix is one that, yeah, I would say, if you had to pick a company to watch, I think OfferLogix is gained a lot of ground this last year. I think they finally figured out and how to grow the revenue and how to grow that company. And, that's one that's on the list of that I'm paying attention to closely.
Is Market Scan on that list too?
Well, look, Market Scan's been around for a long time.
We're going to have Rusty on the beginning of next year, so
yeah, and
getting some fodder
I
here.
don't know in terms of transaction or in terms of deals, but listen, in terms of being a player, if you're looking to do a deal, you're looking for a company, you got to put Market Scan on that list as someone you're going to look closely at. They're sitting in a very nice place, I think, in the industry. So, in that fintech world is really incredibly important right now. It has been, but it's just growing. The critical aspect in terms of the digital retailing part, and I think certainly banks are paying much closer attention and looking at how to get entrenched into that space here.
Well, we're huge fans of Market Scan over on the on the frickin' tech side. So
yes,
we do a lot with them. And
okay.
I would love to hear you say, "Oh no, there's no way they would be sold. Nobody's going to buy."
Well, I don't,
because I like them the way they are.
I can't speak for Rusty. I can't speak what's in their mind. I'm saying if you're an investment firm or you're a buyer, what companies should be on your list to talk to and evaluate, and they're one. I mean, the OfferLogix is another one in that space, for sure. So, again, I don't know what their plans are or ideas of the future are, but if I'm an investment firm or a strategic buyer, and I'm sure they've had numerous conversations with all sorts of interested parties, so I'm sure they have. I mean, but that just, I think if you are any kind of a decent company in this space with any kind of a presence, you're having conversations.
Mm-hmm. All right, fair statement there.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff, we can go to DMS now if you want.
I was just curious, with having the conference and everything,
right?
And there for a while it seemed like that there was a lot of buzz. You had a couple different companies were trying to introduce something. I know Dominion was, trying to push out, I guess a Microsoft type. I guess it was built on MS. I don't know all that lingo, but maybe in the last maybe year or two here, it just seems like it's quieted down. Like you said earlier, things sort of go in waves. I'm wondering if we'll see another wave, and if so, what do you see going on?
Yeah, there's so many layers to that conversation. So many layers.
I know. That's why I asked you.
I mean,
if there's someone that can answer it.
Well, I don't. We don't even know. For a while there, a few years ago, I was convinced that there would be big plays for both Reynolds and CDK. Mm-hmm. I thought Dominion was going to be sold. That never happened. They sold off parts of it. Mm-hmm. So we have Techion coming on. They won't say what their numbers are right now, number of rooftops, just based on some other information. I'm going to speculate they're in that between 130 and 150 rooftops right now. And, will be much higher this time next year, just based on what I'm hearing is in the pipeline.
With the amount of money they raised, how could you not be?
Yeah. I mean,
Just
they
buy
have to
business.
scale quickly, right? They added 1,000 employees over the course of the year from their previous cap raise last year to this year. So the scale, they're scaling quickly. The question I think is when you look at them. Well, let me put it this way: I started writing about them in January 2019 when they came out of stealth mode, and I was the first one. In fact, I think the execs at CDK and Reynolds, I mean, they heard about Techion first from me. You take a guy, Jay Vajarin, who built the infrastructure at Tesla. And he was their chief technical officer for 4 years there, and basically built that entire technology platform for Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
So he's proven he can do it. Uh, he's been able to raise the capital, and I predicted that he would be able to raise money, with one hand tied behind his back. I mean, he's been brilliant at it. The number of investors and the types of investors that he's brought on board, both from the OEM investment firms and some large players like Advent, and then he has large dealer groups that have invested in it. He's checking all the boxes there. But now it's a matter of execution, and can they execute on building out some of those solution apps? Can they really execute on the API strategy? Those are all questions that have remain to be seen. But yeah, I certainly would not bet against them. Now, also the speed of scalability is a question. There's 18,000 rooftops on the franchise level. I think CDK's got about 9,000 some, Reynolds between 3,000 and 4,000. And those are, the Reynolds number is an estimate. Just as an aside, Reynolds, when Brockman acquired Reynolds in 2006, I checked this out at on the SEC filings at the time because Reynolds was a public company. They had over 10,000 rooftops. When Brockman acquired it, and he did the same thing when he acquired the Ford system in the mid 90s, basically focused on keeping only those dealerships that were going to be profitable. So he let a lot of business walk away intentionally, but in the meantime was able to build what was the most profitable company in the industry. So, but they gave up a lot of market share in the process, which they could do being private. The question is, how fast can Techion scale? I don't. We'll see. I think they think they can probably do 500 to 700 rooftops a year. That's bold. That's ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
My play that this is, and I've told them this. I've mentioned this to other people too. I really think right now the play in 2022, the smart play would be for a large private equity group, and it would have to be one of the giant ones, come in and put Reynolds and Techion together, or Techion and CDK together.
Ooh.
Take CDK private, put them together. They get the customer base. You can take your time and be able to do it right, and you come out in 3 to 5 years and do an IPO that's earth shattering. To me, that would be the play. But it would have to happen in 2022 before Techion got too big. You had too many more rooftops, then the SEC gets involved, and from a competitive aspect, it says no. So I don't know if that's even what. But to me, that would be the smart play on a lot of fronts.
Throw a few shocks to the industry.
Yeah. Look, the question too is over time, over the next 10 years, and this is what I told the dealers in Colorado, and this is what I mentioned at Autovate last year. 2 years ago at AFSA, which is the American Financial Services Association, I said the same thing. That was during the NADA convention. Basically, we are in an era of incredible uncertainty in our space. And that's the message I just keep driving home. We've never, ever been in a period of time other than World War II, maybe, and maybe a little bit during the recession 10, 12 years ago, but never at this level. we've always known what was going to drive the vehicle, fuel, gas, right? We've always known that. We've always known that there's never been a question as to who the manufacturers were going to be, right? Today, in the last year and a half, 18 new EV manufacturers that are publicly traded now are in the
Still,
space.
yeah.
Now, and we're the only one that has sold a vehicle.
Yeah.
Really. Right. So, but they're there. And then you have three privately held ones, including Polestar, which I think Volvo dealers, for the most part, are being able to sell. But the we don't know what impact that's going to have on our space, and then on top of that, the whole system, retail system, how customers are going to buy cars. And I'm saying we're not going to have any clarity on this for the next 3 to 5 years. And maybe by 2025 and later, we'll start getting some clarity on some of these answers, and we'll know whether the EV initiatives are going to start paying off. We'll know what kind of impact on the service levels, they'll have. And then the biggest question for me is the connected vehicle play. What impact does that have? And I think, to me, that's the one that has the biggest potential to create the most disruption in the space. And I think I said this a little bit last year too. The data, it's all about that customer data. And right now, it's the data hub is the DMS. But as these cars become more and more connected, and I'm not talking about sticking the dongle in the OBD port, I'm talking about full connection. And we're going to start seeing these over the next few years. They're going to be tied to a platform, a connected vehicle platform that's built by the OEM or by an Amazon or NVIDIA or Samsung or Oracle or any Microsoft, any number of these players. That data then, and coinciding with the vehicle data, the phone app that's going to come with that vehicle, the OEMs are going to control that. And they're going to, that data hub now is going to become the vehicle or that vehicle platform. So it's going to go from the vehicle and from the phone app to the manufacturer, and then the manufacturer is going to send the appropriate data to the dealers. So now you've got a completely different relationship now that the manufacturer has with the consumer. And I think certainly the ability to dictate to the dealer what the retail process is going to look like, who they have to partner with. I mean, we're seeing that to some extent now, but it's going to be at a level. Now, listen, the OEMs are going to have to execute on that strategy. I'm not sure that
That's
they
the question.
fully see that right now, but when you start talking about all that subscription revenue, we saw Stellantis yesterday announced $23 billion that they expect by 2030. GM a few weeks ago said 30 to 35 billion. No one's talked about how the dealer's going to share in any of that revenue either. So there's some big questions there. What I said last week and what I said yesterday or Wednesday to the Colorado dealers, I think Dale Pollock even said this last week. Look, I think we're in an era now where you either got to if you're a dealer, you go big or you go home.
Go home.
The level of capital that's necessary to invest for a dealer today is over the next few years is just going to be mind-boggling. In fact, there's a company out of Virginia, your neck of the woods, Jeff, Capital Automotive Real Estate Services, CARS. They've been around since the 80s. Public company now, they're owned by Brookfield. But they do all the sale leasebacks for dealers on property and facilities. They gave a presentation last week at Autovate. It was phenomenal on the electric vehicle impact on facilities, dealership facilities.
So we're
And
experiencing that
things,
now. We just had to have all new charging stations put in across all the dealerships.
But they said, it goes beyond the charging, just throwing it some charging stations now. You have to have battery containment facility that is far away from your facility.
Eco-friendly and all that. Yep.
Yeah, you have to have new types of forklifts and lifts that can handle
Yes.
the EV, the undercarriage of the EV, so it doesn't damage the battery, the
Uh-huh.
undercarriage of the battery. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I
No
won't
one's
name the
no one's
dealer
taking
group,
that
but
into
I
consideration.
won't name the dealer group, but I talked to a dealer recently who their OEM they shopped the charging suppliers, and
Hmm.
the preferred one from the OEM they decided not to go with. They went with a different one and saved $250,000.
Yeah.
So now, so dealers are gonna. I think they have to be really smart and understand how this. And for that matter, you're making that kind of investment as a dealer. You haven't sold any EVs yet, and you don't know. I mean, yeah, yeah. We look at Cadillac. We don't. Okay, it's going to become all EV, and a bunch of dealers have sold and gotten out because
Hmm.
they see, all right, this
Saw the
isn't going to
writing on the
work
wall.
for us.
Hmm.
We still don't have a Cadillac. I mean, the Lyric's going to come out, and we'll see that promises possibly be a very attractive vehicle, but still, you're going to completely redo your facility and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a promise. I mean,
Well, we've seen
that's where we are.
we've
And
also seen a
GM,
lot of
look at the
manuf.
Bolt. I mean, let me say this. I'm going to pick on General Motors here for a couple of minutes, a couple of seconds. But Joe Biden was here. President Biden was here in our town in Detroit a couple of weeks ago, touting General Motors as being the leader in electric vehicle technology and advancements. Meanwhile, that same week in California at the LA Auto Show, which is the heart of EV land, the EV market in our country, if you walk to the GM exhibit, there was not one EV in their exhibit. They can't sell the Bolt. If you own a Bolt and you want to drive it, you can't park it at the Detroit airport because of
I
the
was to say,
battery.
wasn't it put on hold?
Oh,
Yeah, I mean the product they've had to figure out the whole battery. So the battery partner that they picked, LG Chemical, had issues with the Hyundai batteries. Hyundai ended up spending $900 million to take care of that problem, and now we have the whole issue with the Bolt and GM. And when you look at GM, they've made some big miscalculations recently. The
they,
whole investment with Nikolai Motors, they missed out on the Ravian. They completely missed out and were outplayed on that deal. I think Cruise, the whole autonomous thing, billions of dollars, and what I think is a boondoggle. So they need a big win. I mean, and now the Silverado, the EV Silverado, is not going to be go into production until 2023. The F-150 Lightning's coming out in the next few, maybe very
Oh, so
soon.
they
So
yeah,
they're going to be
yeah,
taking
behind.
orders.
so they say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. So they say. I mean, again, I may be saying the same thing about Ford a year from now. There's just a lot of uncertainty and a lot of things that we have to work through, and that's why I'm saying over the next few years, it's going to be it's a very turbulent, very exciting, very expensive, very painful time for some players, and we'll
Hmm.
see. We'll see where we are. But that's why I'm saying, listen, if you're a young dealer with a lot of fire, and you want to be one of the ones that's on the forefront of shaping how transportation in this country is going to look in the next 50 years, by all means, stay in the game. But you got to become big regionally, not necessarily nationally, but you really do have to become to the point where you can dominate your local market.
I know, but
You
it's
look at
so
what's going on
iffy.
in
I
the
mean,
Colorado market with Asbury. I mean,
it
they
would be
control.
so easy to make the wrong decision.
Yes, exactly. And it's not. And you're not. If you make a bad decision, it's not because you're being stupid. It's because it's a
Correct.
roll of dice. It's
Just
just
can't tell the future.
right. So, and really, if you think about valuations right now for dealerships, I don't know that you're ever going to get a higher price than what you are right now. The capital's
Likely not.
there, money's cheap. There's a lot of, and the buyers are out there. So, the consolidation on the dealership market
Mhm.
is happening.
So we're always talking about, disruptive, what's going to come
Yes,
in and disrupt the market. And your prediction is it's going to be the connected car.
yes, yes.
Same
And
as
it's going to take
last
some
year.
time to play out. It's going to take some time to play out, but absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Listen, you think about just, and I think the Holy Grail to me, I'm somewhat intrigued and excited by the possibilities, and because you think about the potential customer satisfaction or customer experience, that if you have a retail network and an OEM that's aligned with the right technology platform, just think about this: getting into your car and having your car
I don't
verbally.
think it will be
Whether
your car.
no, I think no, I do. I think this is. Think about this: you get into your. It's going to be any vehicle. Get into your Mercedes dealer. Climb into your Mercedes, and whether it's Amazon Alexa or Google or some other voice assistant, it's going to say, Jeff, your route home, traffic is light on your normal route home. By the way, I'm going to need new front brakes in a month's time.
Mhm.
ABC Motors has a slot open at 5:30 p.m. on Wednesday night. Would you like to set an appointment? It's already looked at your calendar. It knows based on all your prior behavior that you typically will be driving by that dealership. At that time, it's looked at the dealership service schedule. It's looked at the parts. It's looked at the everything, and you can carve that up any number of ways. You can do pickup, delivery. Would you like us to pick up the car? But the car's telling you it's not an email or a text or a
No, it's talking to you.
postcard. The car
Mercedes,
is
yeah,
telling you.
Benz is doing that now with
Yes,
with their new inbox system. Or
yes,
it's pretty phenomenal. But whenever I
right.
said, is it really going to be your car? Do you think we'll see another emergence of the subscription base? It seemed like we failed. Most of the companies and dealers failed pretty hard at that in the first round.
Yeah, I think that was it was too soon,
Hmm.
and it just didn't make sense financially. It just didn't make sense. Maybe we'll see it more on the EV, and certainly I don't think it was really possible without having a truly connected
Yeah.
platform.
Yeah.
And I think also there has to be just a complete rethinking of the retail fleet and the fleet that's on the dealership lot, to where it's dealerware's working toward that end, as is Clutch,
Hmm.
which is owned by Cox. Uh, I I think what they're trying to do is intriguing. It's still early, very early, but I think being able to have cars as a rental or as a loaner, lease, for sale, or even fractional ownership or subscription based, and being able to move those cars, those vehicles in and out of the different categories based upon algorithms
Hmm.
that are being created, I think is intriguing. And can we get there? Who knows? I mean, but yeah,
I'm
some
sure we will
spectacular
eventually.
failures, and it was too early. It was too early,
Yeah.
and that's one of the challenges we have today is with some of these companies. Great ideas, great technology, but you've got to wait for technology and for the industry and society to catch up. So in some of these cases, it's just too early. But I think we may see some of that with the some of these EV manufacturers. I would
They'll give
suspect
it a
that Scott
try.
Painter, yeah,
Hmm.
I suspect Scott Painter is going to try to figure out a way to bring subscription to some of these electric vehicle manufacturers. So instead of a customer sale or lease, it's
Hmm.
going to be more of a subscription. But again, it's got a pencil for the consumer. And right now, none of those subscription models pencil for the consumer.
Who's got the dirt
Good.
bike?
Yeah, I know. We got a couple of loud diesel truckling. Man,
Ah, it sounds like Detroit.
yeah, yeah. Well, our neighbor across the street has a pretty cool bike, I guess.
I've actually had my eyes on one of
Iowa.
those electric motorcycles or
Yeah,
electric
yeah,
dirt
yeah.
bikes. And they're talking about having an incentive, and maybe it did already pass, but some type of $600 incentive that you can put towards if you buy an electric dirt bike or electric bicycle. There's some stipulations around it, but
Yeah, I
anywhere
saw
from a four to
something
six
about
hundred
that.
dollar
Yeah,
rebate.
yeah, yeah.
You know, it's like,
Um,
that might be a good
yeah,
time
you
to
know,
pull the
the other
trigger
thing
on
on
that.
the EV side too, I think, what happens in 3 years when Biden's not, or Democrat's not in office and it's a Republican? And what happens to some of those incentives on the EV side, or even a lot of the work done on
Hmm.
just infrastructure from a
Well, I would think it would depend on how far they get down the road with it.
yeah,
You know,
sure, sure, sure.
what type of progress is made within the next 3 years with that? I mean, you're not just going to come in and throw a wrench in the middle
Yeah,
of it and just
America's
load it up.
always been in the business of doing business.
Yes,
So
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, and I think the one good thing about, I mean, certainly the Biden administration is at least they were sending very strong signals to the capital markets that, hey, we're going to be intent on making sure that the consumer market for EVs is going to be there, and because they recognize certainly that for us to get from it to an infrastructure place where it makes sense for consumers, we need the private capital money to start
Well,
flowing. And they weren't going
and
to do that under the Trump administration.
you said what you said is the infrastructure. The market can be there, the vehicles can be there, but is the infrastructure there to keep the cars going and powered? And if you want to throw a little conspiracy into it, if you do have that connected vehicle, all the data, I mean, you're not going anywhere without someone knowing. And
Jeff, yeah,
hypothetically,
we're
if they
already
want to
there,
shut
Jeff.
your car
Jeff, we're,
down, they could
we're
shut your
already
car
there.
down.
We're already there. But yeah, the connected vehicle certainly will be able to shut your car down. And
Yeah. Well,
I think one
well,
of the
before
big
I was going to say, before we went live, we were talking about the '80s, and
yeah, whatever you do, don't let your
yeah,
ESG score slip, and they'll shut your car down,
yeah,
Jeff.
yeah. I'd love to do a whole episode around that.
I got a totally different question for you, Cliff,
Yeah.
based on 21 and where you see the beginnings of this year coming, just to bring it back in a little closer. Um, what was vendor or technology provider performance like in 21? And you see that having a bit of an uptick in 22 with the maybe the dealers getting a lot more cars in and having some confidence in what the future might look like.
I think
from a
that's
volume
a big
standpoint.
question as to whether the inventory is going to be there. I mean, I think Toyota just stopped production again. It's going to be uneven. There's not going to be one linear approach with this, at least on the inventory, and it's going to be even with each manufacturer, it's going to be up and down, and there's going to be no predictability. It's just going to be
That's
incredibly volatile.
what you were saying earlier. You can't predict anything right now.
No, you can't.
This is the first time in this market or in this industry
Right. Yeah.
that there's so many question marks.
Right. Right. Now, regarding vendor performance, boy, that's I guess the dealers probably have a much better window into that than I would, because they're using these products every day and looking at service. Pay attention. I mean, if any of the public companies, public vendors, if an activist investor comes into play. We saw this with CDK in 2014 once they spun out, once they were spun out of ADP. An activist investor came in and really decimated the whole customer service operations of that company. And I think Brian Krzanich I say new CEO, my gosh, that's what I was talking about, losing 2 years of your life with COVID. I mean, he's not new anymore. He's 3 years into it. But I mean, he's done a lot to rebuild that. But if you're looking at I guess pay attention on that. Pay attention. There's I think the question is to would Solera Dealer Track. Uh, I would imagine. I thought we would see news about an IPO by this time, by this month, but I think with the new COVID variant and I think some other questions, we may not see news till the first quarter. But that's clear. Clearly, Vista Equity is looking to roll that, spin that out. Um, so everything they're focused on now is probably making the books look good. So that's an attractive company when they do an IPO or SPAC or however they go about it. So you have to pay attention to those sorts of things. Boy, I don't know, Alex. I mean, that's a great question. Uh, um, I think there's a lot of opportunity for vendors today. A lot of opportunity, but still, it's a challenging environment. Despite all of the profitability that dealerships are making, I think you're if you're talking about process as a vendor to a dealer, I think it's a hard conversation because that dealer's making so much money
Hmm.
that it's like, well, why do I want to do that now? And you can make the argument that now's the time to do it, but still, if you're making that money, you're just going to ride that as long as you can, and then worry about the future in the future. Cross that bridge when we get there. Um, and they have a history of doing it. They've survived they've survived world wars, depressions, recessions, and bankruptcies. So it may just be adjusting some expectations on the vendor level. Uh,
Figure it out.
yeah, yeah. But again, it's funny. When I was talking to the Colorado dealers this week, I just said, I don't think it's too often you may have a speaker come in that says, "I don't know." And I'm like, that's my message. I don't know.
Hey,
Well, so many of
it's
us are
probably the
in that
most
same
honest
boat.
thing that was ever said there.
Yeah.
No, but it's just buckle up. I wrote 3.5 years ago, almost 4 years ago now, that we were entering an era of uncertainty, and I was
Hmm.
focused on the whole EV play, the connected vehicle play, and the just the changing of the retail strategy, the retail operations, and what the OEM was going to foist upon the dealers. I mean, we didn't know anything about COVID or chip shortages or inventory shortages at that time, and you just throw that into the mix now, and it's taken that whole uncertainty to a level just you know I mean, you got to
Craziness.
have a strong stomach today. Got to have a strong stomach today. Fun. I mean,
True,
it's
true.
fun, and there's a lot of opportunity, but you have to be prepared and be ready to fail and be
If
nimble.
yeah, if you don't like change, it's not a
Right.
good time.
No, right, right. But
Not a
I
good
think
time.
the dealers I find fascinating are the ones that are able to try things and then okay, that didn't work.
Mhm.
We're on to the next thing, and just take the hits and just keep going.
Keep on going.
But
Yeah.
but gosh, the money. I mean, in Jeff, I mean, you're in the dealership where I mean, but the money and the price is just it's
It's insane.
unbelievable. The
Insane.
numbers.
Insane.
Yeah,
Dealers are
yeah.
making some of the biggest money they've ever made right now. I mean, we're
Ever.
selling if and when we get a G class in, they're going anywhere from 50 to 80,000 over
Yeah,
MSRP.
yeah. I get asked, and I was asked this, and I think I've engaged on LinkedIn a little bit about this too. Just dealers that are marking up these prices, and I think it really depends on the market that you're in, whether you can get away with it, quote unquote, and to use I think a bad term, get away with that, but with that practice. But I got to tell you, I'm kind of the mindset that look, get the money while you can. I mean, don't be stupid about it, but get the money because customers have
We're
short.
Yeah, we're still taking care of our local customers.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
we're not
yeah.
we're not jacking it up over
Right.
MSRP. I mean,
Yeah.
again, unless it's something unique, such as the Maybach or a G class or something,
Right.
or particular
But that's the type of
AMG.
market you're in, Jeff. I mean, if you're in a huge urban market, metropolitan market, there's enough customers. I
Oh
think
yeah,
you
I
take
mean
more.
we're only an hour outside of
Right.
DC, so
Right. Yeah.
you know,
But
got
but
12
Well, I
Benz
heard.
dealerships.
I was in local Ford store earlier this week, and was there early enough. There weren't any customers there. It was just the sales manager, and I walked up and started chit chatting with him. And it's like, I see you got the Bronco over there. I was curious, how's that top going to do in the winter in Vermont? But it's like, how long has it been sitting here? But
yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, how much over sticker are you charging for it? And he says, 10 grand if you've never bought a car from us before, but it's sticker if you have. And I said, oh, okay, that's why is it that way? He said, well, remember all those years ago and we were all worried about shipping cars out to Dubai and stuff like that because the wholesalers would come get it from us and do that. Well, other dealers have become those wholesalers. They're just taking the cars from us. So if we sold it to another dealer for MSRP, they're going to sell it for 10 grand over sticker every year. So
Yep.
so we're just trying to take care of the customers who we already have taken care of and know that they're going to actually drive the car. Then we'll sell them for, sticker. We're
Yeah.
not
Right.
trying to
Yeah.
gouge anyone, but
Well, and you're going to get them for service, so
Right.
we use the calculation depending on the vehicle to, okay, they're never going to come back for service. If they live in the area, what would we make on service? Well, that's what we'll charge above MSRP.
Yeah.
That's a loose
I'll tell
calculation.
you that again. That's another one of these uncertain. How long does this continue? A and B. If those values ever drop, vehicle
Oh,
values. I mean, there's going to be a lot of
done,
pain on a lot of
done.
not just the customer, but with the banks, lenders, dealers, and
Yeah, I'll have friends that reach out to me and they'd be like, we're thinking about buying something or trade. And I was just like, you're like, I don't talk to me.
yeah, yeah.
speaking, yeah, Joe
I have
Pistel and
no
I were
advice for you right now, other than don't buy anything right now.
talking earlier this week, and we were realizing that a few dealers were telling us, hey, we get an abundance of a particular model. So like truck after truck is showing up. I just heard from one of our Chevy stores that they've got just a crap ton of vets on the way. Like they're going to have more vets on the way right now than they've had the whole year.
Yeah.
And so if anyone's got a used vet or something in that marketplace, they're trying to offload it or something, like the market's going to drop out on it overnight. So Joe and I were talking about, is there a way you can recognize like the Equinox is showing up on lots, for example, and there's like 2 or 3 truckloads of Equinoxes, which is probably 2 truckloads more than the dealer actually needs. And when those things hit, and there's got to get incentive to get them moved and all sorts of things, which may be a month or 3 from now, what's going to happen to that used car market for Equinoxes?
Yeah, I
and
think
other
you have to
shit?
really be paying attention to what's going on in your market as a dealer, your local market, and not be so focused on the national play.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, sometimes that's going to be a short term. I think it might be a short term hit, Alex. Remember when Hertz? Everyone was talking about them having to liquidate all their inventory,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of headlines and national publications talking about the hit on used car values. Well, you did the math. It wasn't going to be a hit. It was only a short term impact. You
Yeah.
take the number of franchise, or you just take the total number of dealers. I mean, there's a maybe 2 car, impact. I mean, it just wasn't going to have any kind of an impact. And if it was just going to be a very, very short term, week. So I think that's sort of what happens when these trucks come in too. If there's an impact, it's not going to be long term. Now, maybe Corvette may be a little bit different story in that local market, but you might be waiting. You still might be waiting for those Corvettes. That's what I was talking about. Just the short term unpredictability, just and the unevenness of this. You might get that 2 or 3 trucks of Corvettes next week, but you may not see another new Corvette over the next 6
Yeah.
months.
6 months.
Right? At least so you just don't know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Well, Cliff, It's always a pleasure. I don't. I feel like I don't know.
believe
I'm
it's
still
another
walking
year.
away from this call with so much uncertainty.
So a lot to digest
I
in
tend
this
to be
one.
sometimes I'm the bearer of bad news. I mean, look, I did this event, David Kane's event several years ago in Lexington, and we still laugh about the doomsday speech that I gave there, and I gave it to a bunch of CPAs and CFOs in 2008, just before the full wave of that Armageddon of the recession hit, and I basically told everyone in that room that it was going to get really ugly.
It was going to happen.
And,
it was.
In fact, I pretty much predicted to them what Chrysler Financial and GMAC was going to end up doing to them over the next couple of months. And it turned out to be right. But it was a very, very dark speech.
Doom gloom.
I don't today. I don't know if I want to. I don't think that's the message here. But the message is uncertainty, a lot of opportunity. A lot of opportunity, but we may have to look at this industry in a completely different way than what we've ever looked at it, and historically.
Agreed.
And technology is driving it, in a lot of ways, and that's just this where we are, 2020, 2022. So,
Any other predictions before we let you go?
No, I had a slide on my presentation the other day, and it was of a broken crystal ball, and I just said, "This is my crystal ball now, shattered." When I say I don't know, I really mean I don't know.
I hear you.
I constantly have to tell employees and my kids too that I don't know is a fine answer sometimes. So
yes,
sometimes it is.
Yep. But I think everyone's going to go buy a Magic 8 Ball now. Outlook is good.
Good investment.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you, Cliff.
Yes, thanks.
Another year.
Thanks so much, Cliff.
Wow.
Great to catch up.
Love these conversations, guys. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
We need to get to Autovate sometime, Jeff.
Yeah.
Now.
We'll talk to you guys about that.
Yep, and our offer to you always
year.
stands, Cliff. You ever want to?
Thanks.
Come use some refresh for some promotions. You're more than welcome.
Well, thanks. You know me. I just I'm so not. That's my biggest downfall. I just hate the
how well we know.
Yes, Jeff, you guys are the same way. I'm just
yeah.
You just feel like
doesn't always work out to our advantage, but it's
it does. But still, we end up leaving money on the table, but that's good.
Oh, for sure.
I just I'll provide the content you find useful. You'll be
better to provide a good.
All right,
service.
man. Well,
yes. Well, you guys have a wonderful December.
You too. Have a great holiday and New Year.
Thanks.
Yes. Enjoy your Christmas.
Yes.
All right. We'll
enjoy this.
Talk soon.
Yes. All right. Cool.